if you've been following the messages out from the IRS about the non-filers, about automated enforcement, if you listened to the podcast with Rocco Stecco, the Director of Collection Policy, you know that the tidal wave of work in representation that we've been waiting for is finally here. There has never been a better time than either to add this to your existing practice or build up this area of your practice. So now is the time to join Tax Rep Network. So the question is, what is inside Tax Rep Network? Well, there's over 180 hours of technical training on everything representation you can think of. There's 40 hours of marketing training to help you build your practice. There are dozens and dozens of marketing pieces and assets that you can use in your marketing. You also have access to the help desk. It's unlimited consultations with us, not only for technical tax cases, but also our marketing team to help you grow your practice. You'll get access to the entire Tax Rep community through Tax Rep Social. It's our social network that is inside Tax Rep that you can talk with other members, share best practices, get questions answered, everything. You get access to the business lien database. Over 3 million businesses are listed in our lien database. You can look at your area, identify those businesses that have tax liens filed against them, and do some targeted marketing. You get access to the entire library of books. It's a no-brainer. So join over 500 other members around the country and start building your rep practice, add that extra 100,000 this year in 2024, and get back control of your professional life so you don't have the tax season grind, or at least you don't have to do it if you don't want to. So go to taxrepllc.com, come in, join us. There's no contract, cancel anytime, but we think you're going to find that we are going to literally transform your practice. All right, taxrepllc.com, and we'll see you inside. How do we move documents back and forth with clients that are secure, that we know we have backup, so we have continuity, and that we can organize folders so that the clients know exactly where to send us the documents, which documents to send, and save us hours of time instead of going through some 300-page PDF to have everything organized. We use SmartVault. SmartVault is a secure way to get documents back and forth from clients and keep everything organized. And we've found that instead of 3 hours of onboarding clients with their documents for a collection case, let's say, and organizing everything, it takes us all of 15 minutes now, and everything comes in organized, right? If you go to smartvault.com/Eric/Green, you can book a demo with SmartVault, and if you tell them that you are affiliated with Tax Rep Network, they will give you a 20% discount. Okay, so go smartvault.com/Eric-Green, tell them you're affiliated with Tax Rep Network, get a 20% discount. Put this in place. It will actually make it more secure, avoid data breaches, and just organize everything for you. So how do we onboard clients? Make sure we get paid and not chase them. Now, you've heard on the podcast, I've talked about this. We get phone calls, we do an intake, we send a letter. We're too busy, all right? Out of sight, out of mind, right? So at the end of every year, we have 20 or 30 of these intakes that we never followed up and they never signed up. Well, we started using Ignition. Ignition allows us to automate the retainer agreement, getting all of our documents signed, getting the checklist out, all right, to the client. And if the client doesn't do anything, it automatically will follow up with them. We get alerted when they open and read it, when they sign it, and when we get paid, right? Ignition has literally cut our onboarding time. We're saving over $400 on every file, that we don't have to spend the time drafting, sending stuff, following up with the client, or not following up at all. Last year, we went from, let's say, that 20 to 30 letters we had left over. Let's assume it was 25. We only had 4. All right. We closed 21, and with our average case being around $8,300, I'll take the extra 160,000 of work. Ignition will literally automate all of this, and you make sure you get paid before you do anything, whether it's a tax return, whether it's an offer in compromise, whatever. So right now we have a special deal for our listeners. Go to ignitionapp.info/Eric Green. Use the code TaxRep-1, and that will entitle a new customer to get 50% off for the first 3 months they use Ignition Pro or Pro Plus. All right. So ignitionapp.info/Eric Green. Use the code TaxRep-1. Get 50% off for the first 3 months for either the Pro or the Pro Plus plans, and just automate your whole onboarding process. All right. It will literally change your practice. So what do we use at Green and Sklar's to manage all of our rep cases? Get transcripts, do the ongoing monitoring of transcripts for clients that are paying for it, do all of our resolution forms, our powers of attorney. We use Tax Help software. All right. And I've had Roger Nemeth on the podcast. It is the best software in this space, bar none. Okay. It honestly, and the report, when bankruptcy attorneys ask us and we can send them the report, we charge $1,000. All right. You can actually go to taxhelpsoftware.com/TRN, as in Tax Rep Network, taxhelpsoftware.com/TRN, and that will get you, if you want, a fully loaded premium product from Tax Help Software for 6 months for only $250. It's a no-brainer. If you haven't tried Tax Help Software, go check it out. It is literally what we use to run our entire tax practice. Right? taxhelpsoftware.com/TRN, right? That will get you the opportunity to get the fully loaded premium product for 6 months for only $250. As you know from the podcast, S corporations and reasonable compensation of the owners of S corps is a hot button topic right now with the IRS. In 2024, they are going after S corps and reasonable comp. So how do we make sure that our client is taking reasonable comp? How do we sell clients on converting from an LLC to an S corp? You need to have a reasonable comp report. If you do a 990, you're supposed to check that box that you have a reasonable comp report that backs up those salaries that are being taken by that nonprofit. Do you? The answer is RC reports. RC reports will break down exactly in line with what the IRS is looking for and what the case law says. It will go through what the owner does, the different duties, and how much time they spend. It will generate a report based on the size of their industry, the size of the company, and the geographic location. With that report in hand, we have never had an auditor challenge it. Generally, you give them the report that backs up the number. They'll flip through, and say, "Can we keep a copy of this?" By all means, that's your copy, and that's the end of the issue. Where clients haven't taken it, we have used RC reports to actually negotiate for what the real number is, because the government's going to get super aggressive and try to make everything salary. That's not the rule. All right. You can save $100 on the premium account for RC reports by going out to trn.rcreports.com. TRN is in Tax Rep Network, .rcreports.com. It'll save you $100 on a premium account. And again, remember, S Corp and C Corp clients, 990 clients, they have to have this. And this is something you charge for. This is a moneymaker for us. It's not another piece of overhead. I think it cost us around, with a discount, like $1,300 or something like that, because we get the premium product. We run many reports. We're charging, between $750 and $1,000 at a clip. We'll bring in somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000 on that software. Right? This isn't just some overhead we're going to eat. Clients who want to have an S Corp, C Corp, or have a 990, they need to pay for this. It's part of the deal. They're expected to have it. So trn.rcreports.com, go save $100, right? Implement this, And trust me, not only will you make money with it, you will bulletproof your clients' returns and allow you to sleep much better at night. Welcome to this week's Tax Rep Network podcast. I'm Eric Green. I'm joined by my friend Heather Satterly. Heather is a recovering CPA, but joined with Joe Woodard and is helping run. Well, Woodard is a larger organization, but Scaling New Heights is the large conference that I kind of associate with Joe. And I wanted to do this program because I've mentioned it before, Heather, but for folks who've never been to scaling, who are in the accounting world, you don't know what you're missing. So yes, there's the programming, right? I mean, and Joe is very motivating. So Joe is on top. Joe was out at the curve on tech before it was a thing. And so much of what he talked about 8-10 years ago has come to pass. So first of all, there's the programming, right? There's tax classes, there's accounting and bookkeeping classes. A lot of the vendors, the software companies, also put on power breakfasts, which are kind of like mini programs of their own. But I'm going to tell this story, Heather. I was speaking. It was the one that was in Disney. It was
Yeti.
It was before COVID. It was 2017, maybe somewhere around there. And I was my first time speaking, and I'm a lawyer. I go down, I speak, I go back to my room, and I bill. Do billable work. That's what we do. And Don Brolin, who people I think on this podcast know very well, Don was like, "You got to come see the exhibit hall." And I by the way, I have a very funny story about that. But I'm like, I'm not an accountant. I have an accounting background, but it's not what I do. No, you got to see. Blown away by just all of the different stuff. I found Receipt Bank inexpensive. I don't want to start getting involved in naming. Smart Vault and I think it was a Fishbowl did inventory. Like there was all kinds of stuff I'd never even heard of. But there is literally, I would say, some sort of a software vendor, as well as also you have memberships. I mean, you have education. I mean, Tax Rep Network is there. But there's something in literally every niche. And so what I wanted to do is get your take, because you've been both a speaker and on the outside, and now you're helping run it on the inside. First of all, this year sounds like it's going to be huge. By the way, it's going to be in Orlando. Go to woodard.com. Everything you need to know about the conference is there. From your perspective, what are your thoughts?
So I'll tell my story. So my first Scaling New Heights was in 2014 in San Antonio. And I ended up there because I had gone to the Sleater conference in 2012 and 2013. And at Sleater, it was great. Loved it. Awesome conference. It was really fun. And there was a lot, there was exhibitors there, and, conferences are fun. They're fun networking events, right? But I remember being at Sleater, and I was talking to somebody there, and I was asking about, I wanted to dig deeper. So the sessions were good, but they were a little salesy. And I wanted to just dig a little bit deeper into actual practical application of, what I was learning. And somebody said to me, then you really should be going to Scaling New Heights, because that's what you're going to get. That's the conference that really digs into the meat of each of the topics that it's presenting in the breakout. So we don't just say, here's a thing, and here's like the basics about it. We actually dig in and have workshops. So that was, and that's, I got what I came for when I went there. That's exactly what I got. So what really sets Scaling New Heights apart, I think, from the rest, and I've been to a lot of conferences, is the fact that we do have advanced level training. So we certainly have beginner training in courses, but we also dip deeper into more advanced topics, and across a lot of different tracks. So we really pride ourselves on providing education that as I said, digs deep into whatever the topic is. And we focus and we work with our instructors that come to Scaling New Heights to make sure that when people are leaving a session, that they're leaving with actionable learnings that they're going to be able to take back to their practice and actually implement. So we spend a lot of time with our instructors. And my role at Woodard, I'm the director of education and media. A big part of my role is not only curating that content with the instructors, but working with them to ensure that those sessions are at the quality and level that we're known for. So that's one piece that was, that's why I went to Scaling New Heights. And much like you, once I got there and kind of went to the exhibit hall, I was like, whoa, what's all this cool stuff? We do have one of the largest exhibition halls and vendors show floors, as Joe Woodard calls them, in the industry. We have over 130 exhibitors that are in our exhibit hall. So there's a lot, and you're right. You can find anything there. You can find applications to address inventory or, AR and collections or, auditing, work papers, workflow management. But we also have exhibitors like Tax Rep Network and other service providers and education providers that, that offer different services. Like this year we have an LMS that's joining us, that's new to market, that they have created a training program for firms to upskill their employees from the point that they're hired all the way up to, kind of senior level. So that's really cool. So yeah, there's a lot there. And one of the things I love about Scaling New Heights too is that our community. So these instructors that you see on platforms like AICPA webinars and, CPA Academy, you're actually having lunch with them. And our instructors are very open. You sit down and have lunch in the exhibit hall, because that's where our lunch area is, and you'll find yourself sitting with Don Brolin or sitting with Eric Green and having a conversation and learning, being able to learn from them just through a casual conversation, which is something that you don't get other places. So
no, and you mentioned community for the folks listening. Oh, by the way, my PowerPoints will all be in on Friday. I'm speaking all 4 days, all Sunday through Wednesday. Which I got to tell you, if I'm going to be there, I want to be speaking. As much as I like them, and I get the time to walk around. But for everyone, there are some conferences you go with your family because you'll be in sessions for half the day and then you're off. I don't want to say don't bring your family, but what I would suggest to you is you really need to go with the idea of participating, because every single night there's an event. Zero throws a party. I told you I have a very funny story. It's about T-sheets, actually, before Intuit bought them. Every night there are multiple events going on. So you get to, I think you have all of the practice building, motivational stuff, the main stage stuff in the morning. Then in the afternoon, you've got all kinds of choices in terms of classes you want to take in every kind of different track. But then at night, there are the events. You could, again, Zero almost always throws one, but there are a lot of them that will throw an event where, one, it's social, but you get to talk to that vendor. I tend to gravitate to the ones where I have an interest in. Even if someone else is doing something I think is slightly cooler, I want to talk to Ignition. They've got something really cool. I want to spend time with them. One, I can get the real skinny on this and how it works, but also, like you said, I get to have lunch with Dawn or Heather or whoever, and they'll say, you know what, this works really well with that. And I get to hear what everyone else is doing or what their experience is. So I'd almost suggest it's really immersive. If you want to get the most out of it, you want to go and be kind of immersed in this. That, in other words, I'm not dashing off to do other stuff. I'm there. I have, yes, the classes, but that's really only part of it. And then I got to figure out where the events are. Now I've seen the vendors, I've heard the talks. Where do I want to go spend my evening? Right? What do I want to go? First of all, you might want certain speakers or presenters and find out where they're going and go to hang out with them. It might be particular vendors. It's really not quite, but it's almost 24/7 for those 3 days. I mean, it is jam-packed. And by the way, the breakfast, there are different power breakfasts, which are presentations going on over breakfast. So you can literally get up in the morning, shower, whatever you're going to do, go down to breakfast, and you're already listening to whichever vendor you're interested in. Then you have
That's
main
right.
stage and the lunch, and it's really it's I find it eye-opening. And today in particular, today being in the market we're in now, technology, scaling, anything automation is the word of the day. I mean, it's been for a while, but you can't get staff. No one I know, I've not heard anyone say, "Oh yeah, we got great staff." Everyone I know can't find staff. They're trying to automate everything they can. Um, I have found over the 10 years, it's almost more important to go now than it was earlier. Earlier, it was kind of cool. Yeah, that's interesting. Now it's, I've got a problem. How do I fix it? And I can hear what everyone else is doing, and I can see the different options. And it's multiple days. So it's not like one day in and out where maybe you got to talk to them for 30 seconds. You can actually roll up your sleeves and walk away with, like you said, actionable items. I got to do this, I got to implement this, and next year will not be as bad as this year.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, we're in a time in our industry of massive disruption. And we do need to stay on top and stay cutting edge. It's more competitive than it's ever been, not just on the client front, but as you mentioned, on the staffing front. So the folks that are coming out of college and, are ready to go into the accounting industry are looking for the best place to work, the most cutting edge. It's more exciting when you are helping to reshape the industry as a firm than it is to just be doing it the same old way you've done it for the last 40, 50, 60, 70 years. So I agree with you 100%. With Scaling New Heights, I agree 100% what you said about not bringing your family. And I have a story for that. I want to say it was 2016. We went to the Bahamas. I don't know if you went to that one, but we went to the Bahamas. And I taught. I think that may have been, it was either the first or second year that I taught at Scaling New Heights. And I was like, I'm bringing my family. I'm going to bring my family to the Bahamas. And, we're going to be what was the name of it? Paradise.
Atlantis or Paradise.
Yeah. Atlantis, yes.
Atlantis,
so I'm like, I'm going to bring my family. So we rented a condo. And I brought my whole family, and it was horrible because, like you said, the power breakfast started at 7 a.m. And so I was up before the sun came up, getting ready for the conference, going to the conference. And then when I would get home, everybody was in bed. And so my kids, I remember, they were younger, they're all grown now, but back then they were sad because they never saw mom. We came all the way to the Bahamas, and where's mom? We didn't see her. We didn't see her in the morning. We didn't see her at night. And I was sad because they were all going to the beach and doing fun things. And not that I wasn't doing fun things. I was really enjoying the conference, but I was torn. And it ended up being at the end of the day, we had spent this week in paradise, but it was, we weren't together. So I have a rule now, and I've had a rule since then, that if we are at a conference that I'm in a cool place, they're not allowed to arrive until I'm done.
No.
And I think that is really hard because you have opportunities at these after hours events. At that time I was starting to speak, and I needed to be at these social events because that was where I was going to make connections with these technology providers and other firms that could potentially hire me for speaking engagements or hire me to train their firms, right? So if you're not attending those after-hour events and you're not networking, you lose a huge opportunity, not just to learn the how-to and how other people are running their businesses, but also potential opportunities for you to grow your business through partnerships, co-firming, alliances, all of that really business driving, all those activities are happening after hours. We're learning during the day, we're consuming all this knowledge, and the evenings are really meant for building those relationships. And so you don't want to duck out and miss that, because that's a huge part of the conference and the experience.
Right. Well, and the other thing, from my perspective, we have clients that come to us who are, are buying, selling, whatever. If you want to sell your accounting practice, if you're listening to this and you want to sell you're thinking down the road someday you want to sell, here's what I can tell you. Any buyer is going to want to see that it is digital, scalable, it can be run from anywhere remotely. The idea that you have to find someone in your town to take over and meet with your client, those days are gone. Nobody wants to buy that. That is what you're doing, is you're buying a headache. Nobody wants it. The more you can automate and make it scalable, you have a much more valuable practice to sell. Because there are a lot of firms that will be happy to buy it as long as they can roll it up into what they already have. And so in many ways, yeah, it's cool to automate and, the staffing issue, but this is really starting to lay the groundwork to have an asset that you can sell. Because I can tell you right now, I have accountants who have these local practices. They meet everyone individually. Nobody wants to buy their practice. They literally cannot sell the practice. What they're getting is, look, I'll give you 20% if you can refer them in for like a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's nothing to buy. All I'm buying is a headache.
Yeah, they're buying, I sold my firm in 2022. And one of the things that made my firm, even though it was a very young firm, very valuable, was the fact it was our processes and our people, right? Yep. It wasn't even the clients. It was the processes we had put in place, the documentation, the technology, the tech stack we had in place, and then the team, the well-trained team that they were able to assimilate into their practice. So I agree with that too. I'm really excited because this year we're going to have an M&A panel on the main stage. And we're going to be having folks with different, people from different sizes of firm and from both ends of that transaction. So people that are looking to buy firms and people that have recently sold a firm. So that's going to be fantastic. We're really excited about that panel. We're also having, on the technology front, we have Dr. Michio Kaku, who is a theoretical physicist, who is going to be speaking about quantum computing and how that's about to change. We thought that we were already in a disruptive kind of spot, but the quantum computing, which is already out there, is set to change our entire, not just the accounting industry, all industry. So the speed and the capabilities of computers is about to drastically change, and we're going to be having him speak to our group about what do we need, what do we need to do to prepare for that.
Yeah, no, funny story was I'm preparing to speak in Disney at that scaling. So the reason I have all the logo wear, by the way, I'm in a suit because that's at American Bar Association, you dressed back then. How the world has changed. Anyway, I'm sitting there and like everyone's really in khakis and like the logo. And I was like, well, how do you get to wear that? And I forget who it was who worked for Joe at the time. Older woman, Liz?
That Liz Colley?
Maybe.
Possibly. Or it could be Carol Oliver.
I think it was Liz. And I asked them, like, you can wear that? She's like, you either have to be dressed or in corporate logo. So I literally texted my law partner. I'm like, we're getting logo golf shirts. Anyway, so I'm sitting there and it's a Tuesday, which is important. I'm watching T-sheets. And like all morning they're coming. And I remember saying to Dawn, how many people did freaking T-sheets bring with them? They got to have like 200 people here. She's like, no, it's T-sheets Tuesday. You wear the shirt and they run around giving away gifts, which by the way, if anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, T-sheets was acquired by Intuit. Yeah, I just remember that it was very funny. Person after person from T-sheets, I was like, how big is their booth? They've got 100 people here. No, it was just T-sheets Tuesday.
And Dawn always tells a story that whenever she goes to these conferences, she that's where she picks up all her stocking stuffers because of all of the
giveaways.
Right. Yeah. All the giveaways and I've gotten some really cool giveaways from these conferences. I won a set of Bose headphones one year. I won a margarita machine. So they do nice little giveaways.
You know the fidget spinners?
Yes.
Those? I wanted one, and Dawn told me they're like scalings in a month. You're going to get 20 of them probably, and I did. I must have gotten 10 different ones. But years and years ago, it was actually an ABA one. CCH had been giving out these little plastic lava lamps. My oldest daughter, who's now an investment banker at JP Morgan, but at the time was like 8. I bring home this thing. She loves this to the point where when the thing finally died, she wanted me to like get another one. And meanwhile, I had done the Iris Rep certificate program with CCH. So I actually emailed them and said, you guys had this giveaway. Do you have any more of those? And they emailed back saying, no, those are long gone.
Right.
But yeah, no, she loved that. But yeah, no, you do. You get giveaways. I mean, obviously pens, but people give away some really cool stuff. It's really, I just find it like now I'm looking forward to it. There are going to be new companies I've never heard of. You're right. There's disruption coming. Intuit seems to buy anyone that might disrupt them. So it's just, I just know that these companies vanish, and then you read like Xero bought them, Intuit bought them.
Right.
I'm like, how does that happen? I like to get bought.
Acquisition wars.
Yeah. What's funny is I was telling you before we went live, Dawn and I were actually on a Zoom with a venture capital group out of San Francisco, and they're asking us about software, about this company and that company. Do you know? And we were like, why don't you just come to scaling? And they're like, maybe we should. I'm like, yeah, maybe you should, because they're all going to be there. So to wrap up, for those folks listening, it's in Orlando in June. The dates are escaping me at the moment, but
June 16th through the 19th.
right?
It's at the Orlando World Conference Center, the Marriott Orlando World Conference Center.
Yep. I am going to be speaking every day, Sunday through Wednesday myself, but it is, of all the conferences to go to, this is one you should go to, and do plan on really to make the most of it. Go check out the exhibit hall. Obviously, you've got the classes, but understand there are events going on every night, and they're free. I mean, they're hosted by one of the vendors, and I pick up so much cool, both just from people talking to the other speakers and presenters, to meeting with like I said, the vendors that I want to meet with. It's really a very cool conference. I look forward to it. I look forward to it every year.
Fantastic. Well, we love having you, Eric, and we're really excited. You were integral in helping us put together our tax track, and we do have a tax topic in every single session throughout the conference this year. So that's exciting. So there's over 30 credits for CPAs, well over 30 credits. And we have 13 CE credits for our enrolled agents. So so lots of opportunity to get that out of your way for the year. And we do have an ethics course too this year. So
always good.
Yeah.
So listen, Heather, thank you for joining us. Everyone, Joe Woodard is actually going to be on the podcast himself, I think next month. Awesome. But yeah, June, see you in Orlando. It is a great time to go. If you are going, by the way, ping me. There'll be an app. You can message all the other folks, meet up with people. But it really is a fantastic conference. I look forward to it, like I said, and it is the place to be. I have to tell you, whether you're doing bookkeeping, accounting, CPA type write-up work, or tax work, it is really the place to be, both education, but also social and technology. It's a fun, full pack 3.5 days.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. This has been super fun.
Yep. No, thank you. Thank everyone for listening. And I'll see you next week on the Tax Rep Network podcast.